They call themselves phreakers, and they're causing business to freak out. They're hackers who break into ordinary telephone switchboards to make free calls at someone else's expense. It's a new form of phone fraud that's cost American companies $1 billion this year. Now the phreakers are targeting British telephone exchanges. This week, the operators of our telecoms networks are getting together for the first time in a fraud forum to try to combat the threat. But as Steve Annette reports, there's disagreement about whose responsibility it is when phone security is breached.
The offices of Technocom, a computer software company in Berkshire. As staff were leaving at the end of the day, work was only just about to begin for a fraudster who targeted the company's phone system. He got away with £20,000 worth of free calls. A chance weekend visit uncovered the crime. David Guthrie is Technocom's managing director.
Well, I came in the Saturday to just pick up some papers and for a few minutes and noticed the telephone system acting strangely. There was indication of calls coming into customer service when we're normally closed on Saturdays, telephones ringing, error messages on the screen. I was absolutely baffled.
In fact, somebody was using Technocom's 0800 free phone number to cheat the company's phone system.
I went over to the main console and looked and saw the international calls being placed to countries like Czechoslovakia, and looked around the building. There was no one in the building. Our 0800 bill averaged £30 a month. We use it very rarely and for staff that are traveling around the country. And the increase of that to £20,000 over this incident is dramatic. And for us, that was 10% of the company profit last year. You know, we're not a large company, and that hurt.
Technocom is just one of a fast-growing number of British companies to fall victim to the so-called phreakers, a band of electronic criminals whose aim is to hack their way not into your computer system, but into your phone network. Their point of entry is this, the company PBX, or Private Branch Exchange. Once they're through that and into the system, they exploit all the modern, sophisticated, computerized features, such as voicemail and call forwarding, in order to commit their crime. Their aim is to dial through the company's phone system and then out again to an often far-flung destination, leaving their victim to pay the phone bill.
No problem. Well, there's other prices.
But Technocom is far from happy about accepting responsibility for the cost of hackers' calls. 0800 numbers are frequent targets for fraudsters, allowing them free access to a company phone system. Technocom says the suppliers of its systems failed to alert it to the potential dangers.
We feel really let down in that BT didn't warn us at all as an 0800 user that we could incur this kind of problem coming in. The company that installed and maintains our voicemail system didn't warn us at all, even though they'd received a bulletin from the manufacturer 4 months before the event.
Telephone hacking doesn't require high levels of technical expertise. Information on doing it is available on the internet. What is needed is time and patience as you comb the phone network looking for loopholes. Once they're identified, hacking a company's phone system is straightforward.
It will vary.
John Chatterton has advised the corporate victims of a number of major phone frauds.
So how do you go about hacking a phone? Well, let me show you. The sort of thing a hacker would do once he knows the system has been violated is he'd dial the number of the company, and I'm now getting the ringing tone. Right, there's a click, it's answering. I've got the auto attendant system, which is now telling me that I can key 0 if I want an operator, or I can key the extension number if I know it. And I'll key an extension number, and it is now offering me the option to go to the voicemail system or to key another extension. What I'm going to do now, I'll press 3, but I'm not going to dial another extension number. I'm going to dial a code that I know tells the PABX to connect me to an outside line. I'll just wait a second or two. There. Now I have the noise that every hacker loves. It is a second dial tone that tells me I've got an outside line, I'm connected to someone's network, and I can now dial anywhere in the world that I like.
And that's exactly what happened at the London offices of international advertising agency J. Walter Thompson. Its voicemail system fell victim to hackers who placed more than £60,000 worth of overseas calls in a single weekend, many of them to China. Managers say BT, which supplied the voice, hadn't alerted them sufficiently to the dangers. But one telecoms company did come to their aid.
Hello, you've got a fraud alarm on system 1.
Fraud control specialists at the headquarters of Energys received information about a transatlantic hacking scam. They identified J. Walter Thompson as a victim and tipped them off. Energys says PBX fraud has caught the UK telecoms industry on the hop.
I think we're measuring it in, say, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth at the moment. Just by next year, we'd be talking in tens of millions. That's the explosion rate. I think we started off thinking, that we could contain it before the customers were really involved. And the assumption was, because it hadn't been all that large here before, that it wasn't going to grow at the same sort of rate as it has in America. I think recent events have shown that that's not the case, and it will increase if we don't do something about it very soon.
America, home of the PBX fraud. The hackers who ripped off J. Walter Thompson in London were traced all the way back here to New York's Chinatown. Across the US, PBX fraud has reached epidemic proportions. It's reckoned to cost American businesses $1 billion a year. The fight against telephone fraud here in America is led by the US Secret Service. And according to them, although it's hackers who are behind many types of telephone fraud, they're not usually the ones to derive most of the financial benefit. That's because the hackers' expertise is usually exploited by criminal gangs who use it to set up their own illicit telephone companies.
They will go to ethnic areas or other areas of people that want to call home to other countries, primarily because of the nature and the expense of it. They will get dial tones. They will dial these numbers for these people, in essence provide them with a telephone company without the expense of the overhead and the equipment. They'll just utilize somebody else's system.
But American phone companies are on full alert. One of the biggest, AT&T, monitors its network around the clock. At this special centre in New Jersey, 150 staff are employed looking out for clues that fraud's taking place.
We need you to verify international calls that were made on your line on November 14th.
We're picking up traffic for him going to Guyana to adult entertainment lines for 443 minutes.
AT&T offers customers special insurance against their phones being hacked.
And what we'd like to do is place an international block on the line to prevent any additional calls from taking place.
There's even a special security system available known as Hacker Tracker, designed to protect PBXs. AT&T believes customer awareness of fraud is the key to beating it.
The industry in general, and AT&T specifically, has gone out of their ways to ensure that when we sell customers equipment, when customers take on responsibility of becoming part of the telephone company with their own switch, that we warn them of what is their responsibility, what are some of the potential problems, and what they need to do to ensure that they're securing their system, that they're locking the doors, if you will, on their house so that robbers can't come in and steal them blind.
Although PBX fraud may be a relatively recent phenomenon in Britain, a new survey indicates that it's far from rare. Research amongst members of the Telecom Users Association suggests around 1 in 10 UK companies have already fallen victim to hackers. How proactive, if you like, do you believe voicemail suppliers and those sort of people have been in alerting customers to the potential of fraud and ways of avoiding it?
Oh, I don't think they've been very active at all. I think it's a question of installing the system and leaving a manual behind for somebody to look at. They may have mentioned to them that they need to use passwords, but there are a lot of other things that go behind that and administration of the system. And I don't think, particularly the smaller end suppliers, the middle range suppliers, haven't taken that on board.
It's a very competitive industry, and there's always the problem that you'll say to a customer, oh, of course, there could be the possibility with fraud across your switch, and we'd like to warn you or make you aware of this. That's admitting some sort of weakness. They'll say, oh, I didn't have that with carrier X, so they must be insecure or whatever, or you must be insecure, which isn't the case, of course. It's luck of the draw whose customer is.
Good afternoon, my name's Kirsty Boxall from the Fraud Control Department at Energis. Just like to advise you that we've been monitoring calling patterns and have identified some unusual patterns.
Energis has decided to be proactive over PBX fraud. It monitors its network, looking for unusual call activity which might indicate that hackers are at work. But Britain's biggest network operator has adopted a different attitude towards monitoring for fraud.
The problem within the US has reached very significant heights, as I'm sure a number of customers are aware. It is still a very new phenomenon within the UK, and our focus is to ensure that our customers are informed, that they're educated about the risks that are there, and that we give them the tools and the information that they need to manage the problem, so that those sorts of monitoring facilities are never required within the UK. That's our intention, to actually nip the problem in the bud.
So you're not monitoring?
No.
Good morning, Adrian. This is Bill Hushel calling from Technicom PLC. How are you doing this morning?
Many victims of PBX fraud in Britain are disappointed and angry. Disappointed because they believe the fraud potential of their phone systems was never properly spelt out. Angry that telecoms operators appear to be doing too little to protect them from the hackers.
Their equipment could detect that our use of that service increased to £2,000 a day. And BT has a technology to track that sort of thing. And they ought to bear some responsibility to watch out for their 0800 customers.
I think it's very important to recognise that fraud is a bit like a burglary. It always happens to the house next door, but of course it can happen to my company, to our customer's company, and our role here is to ensure that that message gets through, to ensure that our customers do take this risk very seriously, that they understand the level of potential loss that they could see, and that they take action to ensure that the protective measures are put in place.
So is it BT's policy to fully inform and make customers aware of the potential for PBX fraud, voicemail fraud, 0800 number fraud?
Our key issue here is to ensure that customers are aware of the risks that are associated with these new types of facilities, and to encourage them through providing with correct information and training to take action to minimise the risk that they are exposed to of this type of fraud.
But when you sign up as an 0800 customer, don't you accept legal liability for all the calls made on that 0800 number?
You just sign a glossy application that talks about how wonderful it will be when your customers can call you free of charge. There's no warning at all.
It's recent changes in technology which have made PBX fraud possible. As the problem escalates, one thing's become clear. The responsibility for dealing with fraud is being laid firmly at the customer's doorstep. Whatever Britain's telecoms industry does or doesn't do to protect its systems, it's the customer who must pay the hacker's phone bill.
Steve Annette reporting.